Alright, hello, welcome back. This is Dr. Chip at Natural Health. Sorry for running a little late. We had some, what you call technical difficulties. So today we're going to be talking about learning disabilities. First I'll go talk about kind of my spiel about how the brain and body connection will help with that. Eddie will kind of come on secondly, and then Dr. Mark will come on lastly, talking more about kind of nutrition and how that affects the body and how kids are able to actually learn better through nutrition. So we'll go ahead and get started. So again, learning disabilities, we'll talk about that tonight. And again, we're kind of doing a little bit differently tonight, going back to more of the longer session and kind of seeing how it works with other people and just seeing how it actually gets people's attention on the Facebook community, on Instagram, and kind of seeing where it goes. So I was thinking more of, I said this on the last one, but kind of learning difficulties, anything like that, disabilities. How about, have we learned anything today? I think it's always good for us as adults to learn something new every day and making sure that we are doing that. So something new is the average attention span. Now, a goldfish has an average attention span of 9 seconds. What do you think the average adult has as an attention span? You guessed it right, 8 seconds. So we actually have a lesser, or studies have shown that we actually have a lesser attention span than goldfish. So you can kind of see that definitely with the society that we live in, the social media, all this other stuff that we have, our cell phones, different notifications, text alerts and all that, we are getting really more of a kind of a short stimulus kind of brain going on with everybody. So kind of shows is that we it's hard for us to really keep our attention on one thing and really be present with something at one time. So again, just kind of getting back to what is something that you learn new either today or in the week, and making sure to actually stick with that. Actually learning something new, again, will help the brain kind of have more, help to form new neural connections and overall actually help your health in general. And so when you as an adult are learning and you have kids or you're working with kids or anything like that, you're actually promoting them to learn too. Again, it's kind of this see monkey do kind of thing where the kid will see or can actually see that you're learning things or knows kind of on a subconscious level. Eddie will talk a little bit more of that. He talks more about that. But the kid can actually feel that you're learning more and then get a better grasp at that. And so now they'll learn better and they'll want to learn. They'll know that you are learning and you actually have that kind of desire to learn. So that makes the kid actually want to learn too. So that was just a fun fact. Again, the average attention span is always a fun thing too. So I'm going to talk a bit more about how our brain and body are balanced and how it gets unbalanced and why that plays such a big crucial factor on how we can learn, how kids with learning disabilities, how that affects them and how they can actually recover or they can actually get back to a very or a much better learning ability that they have within them. So there is one stress that we have in mind is that it's trauma. Again, even kind of when you come into this world, when you're born, a birth is your first trauma. Usually it's some kind of trauma that happens, and that can affect, again, as a chiropractor, again, affects the spine, that neural connection, and it affects the brain. And so if you think about the spine and the spinal cord, it's really just a projection or outgrowth of the brain itself. And so that's part of that central nervous system. And if that has irritations in it, if it has different misalignments or anything like that from a trauma such as birth or a fall or anything like that very early on, that can actually influence the brain in a way where it can't focus or it can't actually learn very properly. So when we have misalignments. If our spine is misaligned, or if we're having different irritations like that, our brain gets overwhelmed, so we cannot stay focused, we can't learn efficiently. And then again, stress or irritation on the spinal cord brings about that overwhelming sensation. It's kind of like you're short-circuiting the system when you're having too much irritation going on within the body. So it's always, again, important to making sure that everybody's doing their job to help the kids move around, sleep well. Again, a lot of these different misalignments and all that from the spine can actually be resolved from actually doing, again, chiropractic care is great. Other forms of care is awesome too. But just making sure that we're well aligned in that sense too. So toxin is the other stress. Again, I think Dr. Mark will explain further about how foods and all that affect our health in general, and how it can affect children's learning and our learning in general. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about more about the nervous system and the gut. And so the gut-brain, again, we think of the brain being in our head, or kind of in our noggins there, but we have a lot of neural connections within our body, and that they have shown is that the gut has its own brain. It's called the enteric or intrinsic nervous system. And why this is important is that our brain can actually our gut can actually think independently of our brain. So when we're eating the wrong foods, or if we're not eating correct foods, our gut can actually influence our brain so much that it doesn't operate properly. And so actually, it's been shown that the gut produces many more hormones, or you could say chemicals, such as serotonin, which is a brain chemical. It produces 90% of that in our bodies, and that our brain only produces the other percentage. So we're going to make sure is that we really are doing well for our gut health, so that we can actually help our brains to function properly. And again, the foods we eat affect our brain. So the next one is, the last one is thoughts and emotions. Now this is another form of stress. So when we are encouraging or we're helping our kids learn, or if they have learning disabilities, again, something that you have to help them do is help them encourage the learning, help them to actually see it as a positive thing. Sometimes kids, when they're forced to do something, they won't do it. But if you can reason with them why something is important, such as when you go to school or when you're learning new things, you're able to create more things, you're able to help others out, you're able to help yourself out, so that when you grow up to be an adult or anything, you actually can give back to society and actually help your own life and all that. And so a kid, you might think that that's kind of too much for a kid, but actually they'll actually reason that out fairly well. Or you can say is that learning can be very fun. It can actually be something that when you know more things, you're actually able to do more fun things. And so if you can actually reason that out with kids, they'll actually want to learn more and more. And so again, learning cannot be forced. You can't force somebody to learn. It's much better if they're actually relaxed and they're able to take it in how they want to. And that's why so many kids and so many people learn so many different ways. Some people are visual learners. They need to see it. Some people like to use their hands. They need to actually feel what's going on. And so that's what these kids need to. Sometimes you need to see that. And with learning disabilities, again, it's just a different range of things. But if you get back to that proper balancing, again, our traumas, getting good movement and all that, toxins, we'd say eating the right foods. And again, if you're actually encouraging them with positive thoughts and positive emotions, then they can actually help to further get better learning and actually help them encourage to learn. And so we get into this kind of weird thing of labeling kids as something that they are, but they are not that. They just have some symptoms that are relating to that, you would say, diagnosis. But if you're able to get that kid back to balance, they're actually able to learn fairly well. That's what we like to do here at our office too. So I think that is all for me. that is a past slide that I forgot to take out, so disregard that. So I think we'll give it to Eddie, and he'll take it away here.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about emotions when it came to learning. You know, Dr. Chip actually hit a couple points here. When we're talking about the kids, we want them to really be felt as they're kind of important in the sense of how we can tailor to their needs. When we're looking at the emotional standpoint of things, we've got to look back at that subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind works by habit. So if we find ourselves getting ourselves trying to help kids how to learn and everything, let's just try to make it fun. So if we find ourselves getting teachings and learnings, and we're putting in a standpoint as if it's kind of, you know, dreading or exhausting or anything like that, that is an image going into their subconscious mind. So if you ask that kid a question like, how was school? Well, they might have a negative image within their own minds telling them that school's boring or school's So if we find ourselves getting a way of putting an image of learning as fun and just continuously getting that going, we can find that kid enjoying learning much, much more. And this brings me to another good point that I talked about last week, but really the self-positive image that they have within their own head. So for instance, if the kids have this image that school's boring or school's bad or learning is just no good, then themselves might even find themselves getting this personal image saying, well, I'm no good at school because I don't like it. You can see how these intertwine within themselves, but on a different level. The habit within themselves inside of their subconscious mind, but also really the actual standpoint of who they are as people. We look at this positive image, but we're going back to the personal reality within the kids or just anybody in general. And this is coming down to the positive image of how we think, how we feel, and how we act. So if we look at those three, have a positive image of how a kid is acting, we can see themselves kind of performing a habit to getting this stuff going, to see who they truly are as their own personal individual reality. And the last one I have is just kind of a fun little, tip or a trick, but it's the future past tense. It's not kind of the learning way of saying it, but it's just fun to say it within itself. But it's something to really put in context of how to help output images within the mind to making sure that it does very well in the best way possible. So future past tense. So we're looking at a standpoint of, I say, I remember getting straight A's back in the day. My mind doesn't know the difference. So if I say I remember that, then that image, if I make a habit out of that image, which is very positive, that I got straight A's back in the day, then I'm really telling my subconscious mind in more of a future past tense, but my subconscious mind doesn't know. So it's going to create that image over and over and over again. So I can say, I remember back in the day that I used to ace all my spelling tests. You might kind of say it's like, you might kind of say it's kind of lying in a sense, but it's so beneficial to actually get that positive image back into the mind. Because, well, just frankly, I didn't do very well in spelling. So we can go and we can kind of paint that picture back in my head, and you can see with a lot of these kids, you can see them get much more confident in themselves. And this doesn't have to be a kid thing, but really if we find ourselves getting this kind of personality that we kind of feel down, or we're victims of our lives, that we've gone through this whole childhood experience, we can change that within ourselves and making sure we get a very, very positive image within our own subconscious mind. Just kind of keep in mind with a lot of these, it's always by habit. So we got to keep doing it over and over and over again to really own into the actual personality that we have. So that's just 3 little points that I have kind of going in the emotional aspect of things. Up next is going to be Dr. Mark, and he's going to be talking a little bit more about the environmental toxins.
Thanks, Master Eddie. That was great. My part is a little bit longer. I've kind of had a passion for this to help the kids out with learning. And of course, we're talking about learning disabilities, autism, ADHD, and those labels. We don't particularly like labels around here. We think the body works on its own, and a lot of these labels are more of an insurance diagnosis kind of a thing. So we just try to work on getting the body healthy, and all these these problems go away. So we'll start into our first ones about toxins, and environmental toxins. Now, when we talk about environment, we're just not talking about air pollution. We're talking about what is in the person's whole environment. We're talking about EMF issues, electromagnetic frequency problems, talking about the food they eat, what kind of social stresses are they under, family stresses, brothers and sisters, all that kind of thing. That's the environment. Not just air pollution. So just to kind of get that in our head. And then the toxins in the body, where the toxins come from. So I'll just read through this. If you've seen here, if you've been here at Natural Health, or we'll see, we are very concerned with toxins that have invaded and that remain in your body. Many of these toxins are poisons that the body can't handle and stores in the fat cells and other places. As all these fat cells add up, they can put mechanical pressure on organs and glands and keep them from working correctly. This is why you hear of people having a fatty liver. These toxins can also have a negative energy effect, being detrimental to the effectiveness of the individual organ function and a drain on the body's systems as a whole. This could lend towards a weakened immune system, for example. So to go over that a bit in a little more detail, a lot of the toxins in your environment are things, especially in this day and age, are things that our bodies have never seen. In the last 100 years, things have changed so much. So many more chemicals. I think we're listed like 80,000 chemicals. In the government people that take control of that. But anyway, we'll list that. So our bodies don't know what to do with all of these toxins, especially if our bodies are already overloaded, and then so the liver is already full. So the body just doesn't have a place to put them. Many of these toxins are oil soluble, so the body just decides to put them in the fat cells. Now, why that's important is that your brain is 80%, 60% cholesterol, a type of fat, and so if the body can't handle it, things kind of end up in there. This is what goes on with the kids who have problem with autism and some of the issues that go on there. So in the adult, I mean, that can happen too, but that's why people have a lot of problem with obesity, is that they can't get rid of these toxins. Until we, at Natural Health, what we do is get the liver working correctly. We got to get the liver working so the body can get these toxins handled, and the body will then go ahead and lose weight. And the same way with the kids, you have to be able to get that liver not so overloaded with all the things that go on there. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a little while. So the 4 dangerous toxins to the brain. First one is fluoride. And I mean, people know about fluoride. It's in the water. It's been told that to us that that's got to do with your teeth. Well, there's many other better places to get that than the fluoride that comes from tin manufacture as a byproduct. So that one is definitely a big problem, and it definitely is known to cause learning disabilities in children and adults even too. So that's like everybody knows this, but it's still in the water. Why is that? And you have to really look at getting water that you either filter it out, or you have to get water that doesn't have fluoride in it, to be drinking all the time. Heavy metals. Now this one inches into a lot of issues here. We're going to talk a little bit about mercury and aluminum here. We'll talk a little bit about some other things later. But mercury and aluminum are neurotoxins, and they are a problem, definitely, especially mercury. And we're just going to touch real quickly on the vaccine issue there. Now, I am not one. I'm not anti-vax. I'm also one that thinks vaccines have a good place, but we have to watch the adjuvants that are in there, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But the adjuvants are mercury or aluminum, and so they're definitely a neurotoxin, get into the body. They may not be the only problem, the only cause of the autism or ADHD. They're definitely a part of it. So we see it here, I think probably 95 or even higher percentage of new patients that come in have a heavy metal toxin problem. Again, these metals get in the body doesn't know what to do with it, sticks it into the fat cells, wherever that's at. And so, that's a definite big thing we work on here at Natural Health. Artificial sweeteners, again, kind of like the toxin we talked before, that chemical is something the body has never seen before. These are man-made artificial sweeteners that they taste sweet, but the body doesn't know what to do with them. It's very hard on the liver. If the liver can't handle them, they become a problem. That's why many artificial sweeteners have been given the classifications like carcinogenic, because they lend towards the body losing the ability to control the immune system, and we lend towards all these cancerous things. And then monosodium glutamate, again, is another one of those that is sneaky. There's a lot of them out there that are sneaky. And it's one of those things that are put in foods as a flavor enhancer, and it works great, but there's a cost to pay there. Again, the liver has to deal with all this. And so we're looking at, not only these things that are in the foods and water, but again, add that up to the electromagnetic problems, the electromagnetic fields, the Wi-Fi, the cell phones, the TV screens that kids involved with, the ADHD people kids have a lot of problems with all the electronics, and unfortunately, most of the time, the parents have given them more than the other kids because that's kind of a babysitter. The kids like to play with those, which again goes back to some of the things that Eddie talked about too, with these effect of the constant irritation or constant bombardment. Dr. Chip talked about the attention span. You got to get constant something new going all the time. So we're kind of bad at that. But definitely is a problem in this learning disabilities and issues. So a little more on the healthy children natural health. As the children's immune system is developing, he or she may develop fevers. These are normally a good thing, as it helps the body produce the things it needs to fight the infections and produce immunity. And many people out there, many doctors actually, will tell the moms, and they call in, if the child's got any fever, we'll give them some Tylenol. Well, and again, you're reducing the body's ability to produce, the immune system things it needs to give lifelong immunity. So unfortunately, it's good for kids to have a fever. Now, of course, we're not promoting high fevers. We're just saying that the body, that's a normal thing for the body to do, especially when you're teething, when the baby's teething or the child's teething. When those bad bugs and things get into the body fights it. That's how it develops immunity. So important there. So as you look into, if you're a person who looks into the history of these childhood diseases, you'll find that back in previous years, what's really made it better in our modern day is the sanitation and refrigeration. Those two things have done much more to help people be healthy and stay away from childhood diseases and have better outcomes there than any of the vaccination programs or anything like that. But refrigeration and sanitation are big ones. Let's go on to, again, vaccination can be a good thing, but contain chemicals actually that can cause troubles in some children due to some of the additives and adjuvants. Now, the thing that I want to point out here is that many kids don't have a problem with vaccinations. I mean, they do fine. They may have a little fever or something like that. They do okay with it. But there's some kids that already have too much mercury. For instance, mom may have had vaccinations or may have had a lot of mercury amalgams in her teeth, and the child already has a mercury load. Then if you add the vaccinations to it. So just something to be aware of. Everybody's different. And that's something we do at Natural Health, is look at the individualness of the body and try to help the people out that way. But everybody's different in how they can handle these things. Growing pains, just the child's body requiring more nutrition for whatever purpose it's going through. So a lot of times, when the skeletal tissues are increasing, you're going to have joint aches and things, the body of these things. And so you don't want to give the kids Tylenol and pain relievers because they're going through growing pains. If anything, give them more food, good foods, good nutritional things there. And this works to the brain too. As the brain's developing, especially as they're going to school, we need more nutrition there and better nutrition. Not sugary things, not things that are low nutrient value. Want to try to stay away from the refined sugars and processed flour, and these only give children energy, but with no minerals to control the body's use of it. So a big problem I have is that if the kids are eating a sugary cereal in the morning or whatever, toast or pastry or whatever, you give them a lot of energy there, but you're not giving any minerals that help to calm that down, or any nutrition. So the kids go to school, they're told they have to sit down and learn, but they're all wound up and ready to go. They want to go out and play and things. Well, again, the person has to be relaxed, what we talked about before, to be able to learn. And so then the other problem that comes later on in the morning, in a couple hours, the blood sugar drops out the bottom, and then they're tired and grumpy, they won't do what they're told, all that kind of thing. So a lot of these behavior issues can be solved by watching the diet, trying to get them to have proteins in the morning so the blood sugar stays nice and level all day. Use of antibiotics, while necessary for certain conditions, can destroy the bowel flora, which is so important for brain development. Now, Dr. Chip talked about that, the brain-gut connection. This is something people don't even think about. If the kids have a ear infection, right away the medics are given the antibiotics, which again, if it's necessary, I understand that. But then it should be followed up with probiotics, getting the child to eat good greens and things that help to develop this flora, intestinal flora, that helps them to produce the serotonin and things that we've talked about already. So this point is just kind of forgotten. And then if they keep doing the antibiotics, they keep having problems, again, you're not handling anything. The antibiotics are a Band-Aid. They are helping a problem right then, but they're not looking at underlying causes or overall nutritional issues there. So again, it's so important that gut intestinal flora. I mean, even medical science knows that there's a lot of things going on there with the gut flora, and it's so important to keep that rolling correctly in the kids. So that's enough for me. I think I've got things going good enough there. People are looking at things. So upcoming health shots next week is on hydration and exercise. So we'll talk a lot about what it takes to be hydrated. A couple things we want to kind of work with here is we should have told everybody to put comments or questions in the comment sections on Instagram or Facebook, and we can always answer those later. We'll try to, I think we're going to go back to doing all of our presentations here on Monday night. It seems to work better for patients and people. On Monday night, it's hard to get everybody to come back for Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so we're thinking that's going to work better. If you have any feedback on that, always just give us a call at the office or put a comment in the sections there. And hydration is really an important thing. That's one of my favorite topics, is talking about salt and why salt's important. So we'll talk about a lot about that next week. So again, thanks for listening tonight. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Natural Health Quincy. You can always come on and find us there. Like us, love us. Subscribe to our channels at YouTube and Brighteon.com of Natural Health Quincy IL. Again, our phone number is 217-228-2040. So we're always here to answer questions. We do free consultations. So if you're wondering what goes on in a natural health office, in a chiropractic office, in an energetics coach office, just come on in. We'll just show you. Nothing. There's no strings attached. We won't hold you for ransom or anything. Just come by, see what we do. And again, we're at 2000 Jefferson Street, Quincy, Illinois, 62301. Right on the corner there, nice big white and green building. So again, if you have any questions or issues or anything we want to know about, put them on the comment section, give us a call. Love to help anybody out there. That's what we're here for. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next Monday. Thanks. Remember, don't worry, be healthy.